Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. This unemployment insurance town hall today is for Los Angeles, San Francisco, St. Louis, and Chicago. Thank you for joining. I'm Julie Hedrick, the APFA National President. And before we get started, we'll go around the room and let everyone introduce themselves who will be answering the questions today. David?
Hi, my name is David Arnett. I am a current contract and scheduling representative. I'm also on unemployment specialist at the current time.
And I'm Brian Walsh. I'm the APFA contract chair.
Hi, I'm Eric Harris, APFA National Treasurer based in Philly. Hello and welcome.
Hi, I'm Kelly Hagan. I'm an elected negotiator and I'm also unemployment specialist based in Chicago. Hi, Chicago.
Hi, I'm Ankit Patel, assistant to the National Treasurer based in Los Angeles and assisting with this town hall.
Hi everyone, I'm Josh Black, APFA National Secretary. Glad to have you today. Thank you.
Again, thank you for joining. Today's purpose is to make sure that we get all of your state-specific questions answered. Kelly and David have put out a PowerPoint, which is a video in the last hotline that was put out regarding unemployment insurance, as well as it's also on the APFA website, so you can find it there under the member resources page. We will guide you through a couple of things today to help you with as much information as we possibly can give you about unemployment. And one of the most important things right now for our furloughed flight attendants is to make sure that their personal email address and their current residence is updated with the company and with APFA. First, we're going to guide you through where you can do that with the company today, and then also with the APFA. So, Josh and Brian, would you like to start that?
Absolutely. So when you're going to update your information with the company, just log into JetNet like you normally would. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see a tab that says resources for furloughed team members. You'll go ahead and click on that link, and it will take you to a new page. And then on the left-hand side, there'll be a link that says APFA represented flight service team members. Once you click on that link, there'll be a set of different tabs that populate underneath that link that you can see the furlough guide, pay and benefit policies, furlough frequently asked questions, some additional links to help guide you through the benefit process. And then the very last one is where it will say provide your personal email address. And this will be the way that you can update your email address to stay current with any information that AA will send over the course of the next few months.
Okay, and I know one of the reasons, especially for our furloughed flight attendants, you would want to have that done as soon as possible, is on Monday, October 19th, the company will be sending out an email to all of our furloughed flight attendants with the amount of hours you will be paid during your furlough pay period. So please watch for that, make sure it's correct, and that should be coming to you on Monday, October 19th. Next, we're going to go over to the APFA website and guide you to where you can find all your unemployment answers on the website. And I believe Kelly is going to walk you through this process.
Okay, guys, if you go to the apfa.org website, you're going to land on our homepage. From there, if you follow the little tabs over to the far right-hand side, you will see member resources. If you click on that, it will bring up the resource page. And if you scroll down, thank you, Josh. I keep forgetting that. Under membership forms is update your info. That's how you can update your info with APFA. And then if you scroll down to helpful links, you'll see unemployment resources. If you click on that, that opens up the treasure chest of everything that David and I have put on the website. The first two hyperlinks that you will see, we have a contact us form, and we also have our email address on there. Please use those to reach out to us. You're also going to see the tabs underneath general unemployment information. If you had an opportunity to look at the PowerPoint that David and I walked you through, this is a little bit of a deeper dive. If you had some additional questions on some of the topics that we raised during the PowerPoint, or if you've never looked at the PowerPoint, You can just go through here and figure out how unemployment works generally. These are not state specific. It's just how the program works. The very last tab is the resource tab. On this resource tab, you will see where we also have our links to contact us. You'll also going to see a portion that says filing resources. The filing resources, if you have not yet filed your claim, you will need this information. It is the address for American Airlines, the phone number, as well as their federal ID number. We advise all claimants to please, at all costs, if you can, file online and use this information. American does use a third-party provider to administrate their unemployment claims, and we have seen claims where they used a different address. They kind of stall out or go a little bit sideways, and it may take us a month or so to get them back on course. So we do advise, if you can, please do it online and please use these addresses and phone numbers that we've given you. Additionally, when you are filing for your unemployment, you will need that. We suggest that you have your social security number, also some of your e-pays or paperless pays, and also your bank information in the event that you want to set up direct deposit. Under documents and forms, we have some additional resources for you. You'll see the various packets for the leaves, the early outs, as well as the furlough. We also have some of the documents that American has produced for us for unemployment, such as the vacation buyback letter, the good cause for unemployment letter. There's also just some other general resources here. If you scroll down below those set of tabs, you're going to see a whole other set of tabs that are state unemployment resources. We have this broken down by base, and that would be the state in which you are claiming. It may not be the place in which you are currently based. They do about 18 month look back to determine eligibility for unemployment. So any state that you were in that look back would be your options for filing. Do you mind if we go to LA, San Francisco,
Sure.
Josh? So if we click on that one, and all of these tabs are set up generally the same format, just with the relevant information for that particular state. So we look at California. The very first link that you're going to see is going to be the place where you go to actually file your claim. And it's also going to be the same place that you're going to go to file your certifications. What your certification is I filed a claim. I've told the state I need money. Now I have to tell them on a regular basis that I would like to request my benefit. I'd like to get paid for those weeks. And that's where you raise your hand and certify. So you can do all of that through the link. We also have basic unemployment benefits at a glance that you can view. That way, if you are in a position where you maybe have 1, 2, or 3 different states that you could possibly claim in, you can look and see which one best fits your situation, which one has the best benefits for you. Below that, we have resources. These are downloadable for you. They are state-created documents that explain the programs for those states. We also included the government advocates. These are your elected representatives, whether it be on a federal or a state level. We have had a couple of occasions where we have had some claims that we had the claimants reach out to their state representatives in an effort to get the claims moving. So we wanted to have that easily accessible for you. Hopefully you don't ever need it, but if you do, it's a good insurance policy to have. And that wraps up the webpage, Josh. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. I want to talk a little bit about what APFA and especially Kelly and David have been doing for the past 6 months to help our flight attendants, not only just putting in their claims, but also in the appeal process and helping our flight attendants who have had to appeal the claim, that they did not get paid what they should have. And they've been successful to date at getting our flight attendants paid out $1.8 million. So thank you so much to Kelly and David for doing that. They obviously are experts, and they're experts even every state, which is so important, because what we're realizing is every state is so different. The benefits are different. How it works as far as how long those benefits for are also very different. So I can't thank them enough for all their time and effort on working on this. Okay, well, I believe we're actually, before we get started, let's talk about some of these states and some of the issues that you've had that you've been dealing with in the last 6 months for these specific states. Do you want to start with California?
Yeah, let's start with California. For the most part, California is pretty easy peasy. What we have seen some issue with is with identification. So whether you may be based in California but live outside the state, or there could just be some weird identity flag on there. And that will stall out a claim. And what we mean by stalling out a claim is you've been successful in submitting a claim, you are certifying every week, every other week, but you're not getting any benefit. So on paper, everything looks good, in bank account, not so good. So that's what a stalled out claim is for us. So we have been working with American. David and I meet with American HR twice a week to go over all of individual claimants, systemic problems, and things such as that. And the best solution that we have for those stalled out ID claims at this point is that American is initiating phone calls. They're trying weekly to get through to the state, to get a rep on the line, to then do a 3-way call with the claimant. So please, we do ask if you see any weird area code that's California that you may not be familiar with, to definitely pick up on that phone call, because it may be the state reaching out to you to get clarification for that identity piece so they can close that. California has had some issues of late with fraudulent claims just because of the nature of the pandemic, so they're trying to close that up. Another question we get a lot is not an issue that we've seen, but we wanted to address it, is with pensions. And this is good not only for California, but it's also good for Illinois and Missouri. If you are claiming a pension and you're receiving pension benefit, that will not impact your unemployment benefits at all. Your pension would only impact your benefit if it was tied to American Airlines as your base period employer, which that is not the case. LUS is PBGC, LAA is AMR, and those are no longer part of AAL. So that will not impact it at all. Another issue we have not, well, it's not an issue, we haven't seen it, but it's a question that we do receive a lot, but wanted to use this format to hit it, is if I'm taking a VOC, am I eligible for unemployment? Each state determines unemployment eligibility, and what they base that upon is good cause. And was there good cause for you to leave your employer? And this pandemic has kind of shifted that conversation quite a bit as to the good cause, because the pandemic has really, everything's upside down at this point. So we have not seen any issues arise of that in California, Illinois, or Missouri. And that wraps up my California piece. David, you want to do Illinois?
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. And one more thing that we just started seeing this week in California, and I'm sure that you can attest to this too, is that some claimants who are going into the PEUC.
Oh, yes, thank you.
That live out of state.
Mm-hmm.
We got, I don't know how many we got. Do you know how many claimants?
Double digits, right?
It's not that much yet, but
Okay.
if the claimant lives in a different state other than California and they're going into the extended pandemic benefits, the claim is stalling pending, it may be
The
tied
ID
back,
piece.
yeah, to the ID piece again. So that's the only thing in California
Okay.
that I can remember. Illinois,
Return to work.
this is a great state of Illinois. And we saw early on for claimants who had entered the May, June, July 3-month PVLOA, if they had a return to work date on their initial filing. A lot of claimants entered August 1st, 2020. their claim stalled, Julie, completely stalled. And everybody was receiving this notice of possible ineligibility. And we noticed it first in July when we had one claimant who had, because she was just doing the month to month. But we strongly, if you are on a leave, unless you have an option of contacting Illinois, which when you call them, just so you know, you're going to put yourself on a callback queue request. It is a 3.5 week turnaround time, just with the state. So what we did is Kelly and I worked with the company. The company was able to solidify through their government affairs team a direct contact in the state of Illinois to assist these claimants that claims have stalled. And I think we turned about 150 in 2 days. So if you are filing for unemployment in Illinois, we're going to have to ask you to please not enter a return to work date, right, Kelly?
Correct. Because in the event you want to extend your leave past that, it will stall out your claim.
And the only way, unfortunately, to correct that is to talk to the state directly. And that's the stall process. So it could be 5-6 weeks before you're able to speak to the state. That's why it's important to certify if you have entered a return date, because once it is flipped, then the state knows how much you need to be paid.
Retro.
Your retro
Did I
payments.
hear that word certified? Is that important?
Why don't you tell
Let's
us,
talk
Kelly?
about it right off the bat.
Okay, so certify. What that means is I have filed a claim for unemployment. I'm telling you, my situation, I'm gonna need some help. So what does certification mean? It means I'm raising my hand every week, every other week, and saying, I need you to pay me benefits for this week that I'm eligible for. So certification is, in my opinion, one of the most important processes, because if you find yourself in a stalled out area, or you filed your initial claim, we're looking at 4 to 8 weeks before you see your first benefit check. After you file that initial claim, you must keep certifying throughout that whole period, even though you haven't gotten the check yet. They have to process the check. It takes them a while. Checks are very important. I like money. I'm sure you do too. So let's keep raising our hand and certifying. So that way when they catch up, you will get all of that retro and back pay that you're eligible for.
Great, thank you. And what about Missouri? Any specific issues going on there?
Yeah, so one more thing I wanted to touch on in Illinois is if a claimant is currently receiving unemployment benefits and you took the VI, please on your biweekly certification, when you go in to certify, speaking of that word certify, and you indicate that it's going to ask you a question, are you currently receiving or have you applied for a pension for that week? If you answer yes to that question, it is going to reduce your benefit because the state portal is not designed, configured, intuitive enough for it to recognize that that pension payment is not, no matter if you're LAA or LUS, either pension payments do not reduce the weekly benefit amount in any of our base states. So what we do recommend in Illinois, the workaround is, yes, we want to be honest with the state, but the only thing that we can come up with is that you're going to have to contact the state directly because there is a retirement form on the Illinois IDES website, but it in itself does not even ask where the pension payments are coming from. So we need to talk to somebody at the state and say, hey, these are not from the base period employer. And if you have any questions, excuse me, American Airlines Human Resources said they will handle LAA pension as a one-off, correct, Kelly?
Yes, we were able to secure a letter from American for a claimant to provide to their respective state for the PBGC. Just by the nature of how those two pensions work, PBGC, LUS folks can get that check while they're still working. LA is a bit different. You have to be separated. So the LAA, we will be handling those directly with the company as one-offs because we don't anticipate that being as large a problem as we have seen with the PBGC and other base states.
Okay.
And as far as Missouri, Missouri, we were running into issues with the work search requirement not met. In many of our base states, if a claimant is currently on a leave of absence, we'll say EBLOA, STLOA, PBLOA. They have a defined stop date and start date for reemployment, basically a temporary furlough period. And in that case, in Missouri, the work search waiver is waived. There is no work search waiver. So we have had 2 claimants that ran into an issue with the work search requirement not met. We have had the company to assist us with drafting a work search waiver letter that we've been successful in submitting directly to the claimants and to the state. And in Missouri, Human Resources does have a contact. It is not the same consistent direct contact, if I'm correct in that, but they do have a contact in the state. So in most cases, if there's an issue, Human Resources can reach out directly to somebody in that state.
Okay, great. Great information. Okay, well, we've got a few questions here, so let's get started on them. And I'll make sure to mention the state, because make sure also, if you're listening, that remember these answers are state specific. So you want to make sure that you understand also, if you're calling in from Illinois, we could be answering the question for California or Missouri. So we'll make sure to that you understand that this question is what state it's coming from. So this first question is from a flight attendant who has taken the VIA and is based in California. This flight attendant is wondering if we could collect unemployment while we were out on a VIA, and it's a lump sum VIA. Do we need to claim the pension amount weekly? And when we do, is it deducted from the weekly unemployment amount? Also, what should we say in the provide more details section under the selected income type when we list pension under the heading?
Okay, I'm going to take that one, Julie, if you don't mind. Okay, so for a VIA lump sum, are you eligible for unemployment with that? Ultimately, it is up to the individual states if a VIA is eligible for unemployment. American is not going to contest the unemployment at all, so it truly is going to fall upon the state and how they choose to view that for eligibility. We have not seen any come up from California. Is that correct, David? We haven't seen any come up. Okay. So those folks that did it in May, we haven't seen any of that kicked back at this time. Do you need to claim your pension weekly amount, and is it deducted from your unemployment? It will not be measured against it at all. You should be able to have those two pretty much double dip. You can collect both of them at the same time. What I would suggest providing under the provide more detail section when you are submitting that you do have a pension, and I would use these words very specifically. The pension I am collecting is not from my base period employer. That is the actual language of the state law that provides the ability for those two not to measure against each other.
Can you repeat that? What they should,
Yes.
okay.
The pension that I am receiving is not from my base period employer.
It's important.
And that is good for all states, even though this is a California question.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kelly. Okay, the next question is also another flight attendant who has taken the VIA based in California. I took the 12-month LOA in April, went on unemployment insurance with a return to work May 2021. I then took the VIA and retired October 1st. I still have 1 week to claim check of September 30th. Can I continue on unemployment insurance just by certifying, or do I have to reapply? Slow rollers are claiming by certifying severance pay. Can I be claiming pension, vacation payout when it happens, etc.? Okay, sorry, that gets a little, I'm not sure exactly that last sentence, what they mean. David, do you get what the question is on this?
I totally do,
Okay,
and
good.
we have some things from our lovely chart that our lovely Kelly put together, and we're going to have to tag team this one. But I will say I have some concerns because if you have not claimed since September 30th, I think by now your current claim may be in inactive status. In California, you can log on directly to the California EDD website. It's one of the easier states because a claimant can reactivate their existing claim just by going onto the website and applying. And do not be confused or alarmed because even the website of California says, note, this will look like the same exact process when you first applied. You are not applying for an entirely new application. You are simply reactivating your application, but it's going to look exactly the same. When it gets approved, it's going to revert back to your monetary determination from initial filing. It's not like you get 26 more weeks and more money. It's whatever money you have remaining plus any weeks that you have remaining. For the second part, can I continue on unemployment just by certifying, or do I have to reapply? Well, it depends if your claim is inactive or not, and only you as a claimant would know that by logging into the California EDD portal to see if you do have weeks that you need to certify. And if you don't, then you need to follow the reapplication process. Certifying severance pay. So severance pay in California does not reduce the weekly benefit amount. It is a must report, meaning you need to disclose to the state that you are getting the severance pay, but it's not going to reduce your weekly benefits. And the same is true for the pension payment. Pension payments are not going to reduce, as Kelly said, and I want every state to listen to what we say, Kelly.
The pension payment is not from your base period employer.
And in terms of vacation payout, California has a prorated formula for both vacation that is allocated, meaning it's currently in your HI-10, as well as vacation that you're receiving as a payout. So Kelly, can you explain the prorated portion of the vacation?
Okay, so the way that the California law is written is they use this phrase called prorate on it. And pretty much what it means for the purpose in our world for unemployment is that going to measure against my unemployment? It will not. Because it was part of a buyout, which if you were furloughed, you're now going to get all of the, if you opted into it, you're going to get all of the vacation that you had on your schedule that were unable to take due to furlough, as well as any accrued vacation that you had. So you will get that above and beyond your unemployment. If you, and really that's the only situation that is tied to us, because they have state language that if you still have that vacation on your schedule after you've been furloughed, but we don't have contractual provisions for that, so that one really doesn't apply to us. So ours is you either get a buyout on it or you roll it to when you return. So those that elected to do the buyout, you're going to go ahead and not have that measured against your unemployment. How that works with the VOP, it's a payout as well. So any type of payout of the vacation will not be measured against unemployment for the state of California.
That's good news.
It is. California is a very generous state.
Yeah.
It's very worker friendly.
Oh, yes. Okay, next question is from a furloughed flight attendant based in California. The question is, I was based in Phoenix up until April, but I have always lived in California. Now, being LA based, would it be wiser to submit unemployment with California or stay with Arizona?
That's a very good question. By the way, wise move on the transfer. I would suggest highly that you file in California. They are much more generous than Arizona, and your severance pay, which is your furlough pay that you're receiving for your furlough pay period, your vacation, none of that is measured against your unemployment. You would get that above and beyond. Arizona is not that way. So I would highly suggest that you file in California. One thing I do want to touch on, you did mention that your residency was California, and this is good for all states. It is irrelevant where you reside when it comes to filing an unemployment claim. The only thing that an unemployment claim is tied to is where your employer paid you, what state they paid you in, because American is actually paying into the unemployment fund. It's not coming from your residency taxes at all. So anybody who's a commuter, let's just take that off the table because it's really irrelevant to it. So for you, girl, get on the EDD website and start signing up for that.
Great, Callie. Okay, so just wondering, as far as the look back is concerned, right? If you've been based in multiple bases, does it matter how long you were based? Like for this flight attendant in LA, if she was 10 months in Phoenix and 2 months in the state of California, let's see, in LA, does it matter?
It does not, and with our transfers, pretty much the least amount of time you could find yourself in a base would be 1 month, right? You'll have 1 month there. So if you spent 13 months in one base and then 1 month in one that really pays well, I would suggest going to the 1 month base and filing because it would be better for you in the long run.
Great, thank you. Okay, the next question, I'm a lump sum VUP and interested in claiming unemployment insurance. Do we claim the pension, yes or no?
Okay, I'm
And
gonna.
this is Illinois, sorry, I
That's all
forgot
right.
to say what state it was.
Okay, so once again, we're gonna go ahead and predicate the VOP answer with, the state determines eligibility for the VOPs. And as we stated, we haven't seen any issues with it thus far in Illinois, but just want to throw that out there. On the pension, you are going to be receiving a pension, but keep in mind, it is not from your base period employer, so it will not measure against your unemployment. One of the things that frustrates David and I to no end is that when they ask these questions, are you receiving a pension? We really wish they would say from your base period employer, but they do not. In an effort to stave off any issues that you're going to have with delayed benefits or reduced benefits, somehow there has to be a conversation with the state in which you're filing to let them know it is not from the base period employer. And if you do suffer a reduction in your benefit, reach out to David or I at unemployment@apfa.org so that way we can address it internally and have American leverage their resources to correct the problem.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. The next question is also from a flight attendant who's based in Chicago and has taken the VOP. And her question is, please explain how as a lumpy, I have never heard that called that before, must be a lump sum paid out, about to collect pre-SS-NRA. I'm going to give, you see the amount, it's over $3,000 pension, but I'm still eligible to collect unemployment insurance. The AMR versus AAL and how that's relevant to the collection of unemployment insurance. I have an interview with IDES on October 22nd, and I'd like to be able to explain this. And is there documentation that I need to provide? David, you're going to want to help us out with that one.
You know what? I think this is a great question, and this is probably one that Kelly and I is one of our favorites, right? So first, it's the explanation of AMR versus AAL. I think a lot of our legacy American Airlines flight attendants, regardless of where they're based, think that their pension payments are from the base period employer because, well, it's American Airlines. Well, you're wrong. Your pensions were frozen in 2012 prior to the bankruptcy filing, or after the bankruptcy filing. And as a result of that, the pensions were not funded by AAL, which is the merged carrier of American Airlines and US Airways, right, Kelly?
Correct, they were AMR.
They were from AMR. So we were getting this a lot from flight attendants who are maybe going into possible benefit reductions because they're saying the pensions are from the base period employer because it's just American. You're wrong. So that's the differentiation between AMR and AAL. So that's how it's relevant. So the amount that you listed here for your pension payment, that doesn't reduce your weekly benefit amount in any of our base states. I'm a little concerned that you have an interview on October 22nd and that you are not on our spreadsheet. So we're going to need you to send us some information so that we can prep you for this process. As Kelly said, Human Resources has committed, because they haven't yet provided a legacy American Airlines flight attendant pension payment letter, that they would handle these as a one-off. So if you could please email us at unemployment@apfa.org or use the contact us form on our website to make sure that we can prep you for this interview.
And can you please send it sooner rather than later, because we need to get some documentation for you to provide during that interview, because you need to prevail and you need to get your full entitled benefit in addition to your pension.
That's right, Kelly. And I'm thinking that the form that you're talking about is the form that IDS, I would think so, right, Kelly?
Yeah,
the retirement form, because you filled that out. Now it's triggering the fact finding, because like I said, even that form does not mention base period employer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next question. It looks like we have a lot of flight attendants who've taken the VIA who are, have called in, written in. So this is another flight attendant who has taken the VIA and based in the state of California. Well, I need to alert unemployment insurance about my pension that I am anticipating beginning October 1st, 2020. How about vacation and sick time payout supposedly to be paid out this November 15th, 2020? Well, I also need to let unemployment insurance know about the lump sum payment to be paid next year before November 15th, 2021.
Okay, so on that one, we've got a lot of money coming in. We have to figure out what we're going to do with it in California. So the pension, as we have stated throughout this town hall, it will not measure against your unemployment. So when that is disclosed to the state that you'll be receiving, we need to say it is not from my base period employer. Additionally, the vacation, the payouts that you're going to receive, that should not measure against your unemployment as well. And then the lump sum payment that you're going to receive for your VIA, that is written all over the general lease that it is severance pay. So as such, that would not be measured against your unemployment. If you find when you're filling out your claim that it is asking you, will you receive vacation pay? Will you receive a pension? Will you receive any lump sum severance pay or any type of severance pay? You will need to provide that information to the state. California does have a strict reporting requirement, even though it does not measure against. The reason why they have that is American is going to be reporting that they have paid you money. They report that on a quarterly basis. The state is going to pull that and they're going to say, see that American paid you money. Then they're going to go back and look to see, how did you report this money? Even though it doesn't measure against it, you still need to make sure that, you know, all the numbers add up.
Great information. Okay, the next question is from a flight attendant from Chicago who is on a leave of absence. How do I describe the reason for my unemployment when I took a leave? Are we COVID-19 claimants? And we will be asked to report any wages we are earning, but it says for each week we work and I haven't worked, well, I will have been paid 26.15 hours. That's a little, sorry, that was a little choppy on my part here. Do you want to go for the first question, which says, how do I describe the reason for my unemployment when I took the leave?
Well, I'll take this one. So the first thing I would look at is how would you describe the reason for your leave? And most states will have some type of reduced hours due to COVID-19. So that's kind of the, so when you say, are you a COVID claimant? That would probably be the most logical explanation, reduced hours due to COVID. This is in Illinois, so this is Illinois IDES. I know what the question says. Did you work? Well, no, you didn't work. But as Kelly says, can't think of any other time that the employer has paid employees to sit at home and still collect wages. So the biweekly certification says, did you work? And if you answer no, then it doesn't give you the nested questions to be able to enter the wages. So it's a little somewhat confusing. So we kind of had to fiddle around with the systems through, just claimant feedback through what you've told us. And in some cases, you may have to answer a question incorrectly to get the nested questions. So if you say, did you work? Well, you didn't work, but you may have to answer yes to enter the wages. And we have told you throughout this presentation that the company is going to report the wages. We do not want you to quarterly. We do not want any claimant to fail to not report those payments because they answer the one question of, did you work? No. So at the end of the day, when the state looks at the wages reported by American and they look at your weekly certifications or biweekly certifications, they need to mirror each other. And if they don't, it could trigger you into a recoupment. In fact, we do have some claimants right now who are in recoupment for not claiming the hours. And I'm not saying that you should or you should not. I'm just telling you what the company will report to the state.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, next question is from a flight attendant who's been furloughed and is based in Chicago. In Illinois, while we collect unemployment as a furlough, are we required to be job searching?
I'm going to grab that one, Julie, if you don't mind. Okay, so we, Dave and I can speak to this one pretty well because we've already done a few appeals on this one.
3.
Yeah, 3 appeals and we've prevailed on it. So in Illinois, there is a job search requirement. And being a furloughed flight attendant, you are not going to be having any income. So a leave would have income, which is you would be reporting reduced hours, so you would not have a work search requirement. But a furloughed flight attendant who's reporting 0 hours would have a work search requirement. So yes, you do have that. And David, do you remember, do you have to sign on through their job search website first?
Actually, in Illinois, you don't have to register for the job
That's
search
right.
requirement, but you do have to search for work.
Correct. And they also, IDS website has a job search log PDF file that you can download and you keep track of that. And it is required to be provided upon request. And in the 3 appeals that David and I have done thus far, they did request that of the claimants. And we were very blessed that the claimants did have that. So they have been keeping up with their job search requirements. So yes, you will have one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question is from a flight attendant in Chicago who has taken the VIA. Who do I report severance pay to with unemployment insurance? IDS. I currently have a claim filed from 4 of 2020. If responsible to report severance, to whom do I report, or has American Airlines already reported the severance to IDS? Will my current claim also include my recent severance package effective October 1st, 2020?
Okay, I'm going to grab that one as well, if you don't mind. So for Illinois, it sounds like that you started taking the leaves in April. You filed a claim, you've been successful with the claim, you've been receiving money from the claim. Now your status is changing. It sounds like you've taken VIA, so you're going to have some severance pay tied to that. And how do you report that? David, do you remember on the biweekly if there's a severance question on there?
I think there is a severance question.
Okay. If there is, when you are certifying, then you would disclose it then. When you disclose that severance pay, IDS website captures it. They do not use it to measure against your unemployment. Just as a piece of back-end information, American's programming is such that it will be reported as wages, but because the claimant is disclosing it as severance, we've not seen an issue with that thus far. I think we've got your reporting question and how the severance works with it. If we miss something on this, or this has triggered more questions, if you could do us a favor and email us at unemployment@apfa.org so David and I can respond to that, because I hope we didn't muddy the waters with that, with our answers on that.
Okay, great. The next question is from a flight attendant who's been furloughed in Illinois or in Chicago. And we've answered the top of this question a few times. It really is the second part of the question that I don't think we've really answered. And that is, what do we do if we have travel plans and are collecting? Do we not certify while we're away? And what does this mean if we don't have to be job searching under emergency rules?
Great question to whomever wrote in, called in. So we haven't really seen this problem in Illinois. We've seen it in other states, but as a claimant receiving unemployment benefits, there are certain obligations that you must meet. And that one of the fundamental principles is being able and available to accept work. So if you are off traveling, and this is, could be that you live somewhere else, but the state thinks you're traveling. If you are off traveling, then you are not available to accept work, right, Kelly?
Correct.
So that could potentially, Julie, disqualify the claimant from receiving unemployment benefits because they're not able and available to accept work. Second part of that is most states have the ability to track your IP address where a claimant is certifying from. So if you, for example, live in Chicago and you're certifying from Chicago, but then all of a sudden you're certifying from Honolulu, it could trigger the state a red flag that you're, number one, you're not able and available, number two, you're traveling. So in this case, we do suggest prior to traveling that you contact the state, which it's difficult to get through, but you contact the state and kind of let them know. That's kind of the best practice for if you're going to be traveling while you're receiving unemployment benefits.
Can I add to that?
Absolutely.
And if you're going to go on a 2-week vacation with your family, or for whatever reason, and you are not able and available for work, just don't raise your hand those 2 weeks and don't certify. Because if you're saying that you are able and available, but you know you're going on a family vacation for 2 weeks and you're going to be out of pocket, that is going to be perceived by the state as being fraudulent.
Great point. And the last part of that is, what does this mean if we don't have to be job searching under emergency rules? Well, even during the pandemic, Julie, and Kelly, the initial part of the pandemic, Illinois never waived the job search. It was always modified that the claimant, because there's two parts of registering with the job services link and searching for work. They just modified it to where you don't have to register for the job link, but you still have to search for work. So
because they had even brought into it, well, you could telecommute on work, so you could look for work that you didn't have to leave for your home to do.
Right.
We were able in some of our earlier appeals for folks that were in April, March, May, there were some executive orders that had come down in the state of Illinois, so we were able to step around that work search requirement on those one-offs. But as the pandemic has lessened and the shelter in place is no longer in place, that work search requirement is very, very prevalent and is very mandatory for you to maintain your eligibility.
Okay, great. Good information to have. Okay, the next flight attendant, it took the VIA in Illinois. And I'm on a 12-month VIA with 38 hours of pay. I live in Illinois. Do I claim the 38 hours as working wages? And are the 38 hours considered severance pay? We touched on this.
So even though the company has told us that they're going to report the 38 hours as regular wages, it is, if you look at the general release, everything that you signed, if you don't have a copy of it, we can send you what it looks like. Written all over it, it says severance pay. So that's what it is, severance pay.
All right, next question. Flight attendant took the VIA and is based in California. Is California paying additional weeks past the 26 weeks?
I'm going to grab that one, Julie, if you don't mind. So California, as you stated, is 26 weeks. Under the CARES Act, There is an additional 13 weeks, the PEUC, that will come up once the 26 weeks has been exhausted. Once we get outside of that extension, there could possibly be additional extensions. Once an extension has concluded, then at that point, you kind of have to put your head up and look around and see what is the state unemployment rate, what is the federal unemployment rate. Those two things drive extended benefits. So currently, after the 39 weeks has concluded, which would be the 26 weeks plus the 13 for the PEUC under the CARES Act, once those 39 weeks have concluded, it really depends on what is the employment environment look like. There may be additional state extended benefits, there may be additional federal benefits available at that time. We cannot speak to that because we don't know what the world's going to look like 3 months from now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next flight attendant is based in California. I am not able to certify in California, and I have a date of March 2021 when I will be eligible again. Do we only get 26 weeks? So I know we just talked about how many weeks we have in California, which is more than that. But I'll let you take this one on, David.
I think I would be curious to know if the claimant has exhausted the state benefit, if they are one of the out of state residents. I don't know. Let's see if this is one.
See if I can find out more.
Yeah, if you're an out-of-state resident and you're having issues getting approved for the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Benefit Fund, please let us know, or even if it's just stalled based on just getting approved for the PEUC, email us unemployment@apfa.org or use the contact us form so we can just know a little bit more information of why your claim is stalled.
Okay, and this one I believe has already been answered. Let's get down here and see some that we haven't already answered. Okay. So yeah, this is from a flight attendant who has the VOP, taken the VOP and is based in Chicago. And they're asking, how do we report our vacation payout? Will it disqualify us from benefits?
Kind of like Kelly.
Oh, me,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, sorry, I was sitting here going, let me look at my little list on that. Okay, so for a vacation payout in Illinois, and bear with me because we've actually been going back and forth with this with our internal legal to try to muddle through the language. So in Illinois, and this is specific to Illinois, not the other bases, so everyone else cover your ears. There are, for it to be measured against your unemployment for a vacation payout, 3 different things have to take place. And I don't want to get into the weeds on it, but 2 of them occur just by the nature of our contract. The third piece is American has to fill out a form and send it to the state to let them know about that. If they don't do that, it is not measured against your unemployment. And to be quite honest, American HR is very underwater. They are doing the very best they can with what they have. Just our workforce alone is keeping them quite busy. I can't tell you if they're going to fill out this voluntary reporting form or not. I can't even tell you if they are aware of this form or not. I kind of lend that
They will not.
that they will not, but I cannot say that definitively. So we can put that on the agenda and ask the company, because it is a voluntary reporting thing, you know, we can request them not to fill that out, so it will not measure against your unemployment, and we can follow up with you outside of that. I think that would be the best answer, because I just can't say if they're going to fill it out or not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question is from a flight attendant who's taken the VOP in California. I took the VOP lump sum The first question is, should I wait to report the weekly income from pension until I get it, or report what I calculate that I will be receiving? The second part of that question is, I have been receiving passive income from an investment property that has no relationship to AA. Do I need to report that unrelated income?
That's gonna be me. Okay. Sorry, I was typing in that little note because I wanted to make sure we captured that with A on the previous question. I do not know the answer on the passive income. Do you know that, David?
It is dependent on the state. We'll have to look and see if it's rental property, investment property. It depends on the type of property it is,
Okay.
depending on the state. So we'll have to get
Okay.
back to you on that question.
Okay, all right, so let us take that piece back, and that we'll need to get your email address and such for that. Now, as far as the pension, as we have stated throughout this call, it is not against your base period employer. It should not count, measure against your unemployment in any way whatsoever. So when you do report it, and you would report it upon receipt of it, you need to ensure that the state is fully aware that that is not part of your base period employer. And I believe that closes out that question.
Yes. Yep. Okay, let's see here. Okay, our next question is from a flight attendant who took the VIA in California. I am based in Los Angeles and currently receiving the unemployment insurance benefits from a leave since May. I am now the 12-month VIA, so do I continue certifying the same way without noting any change until unemployment insurance benefits run out? Or do I have to change the certification language to reflect severance or other income? Won't the benefit be reduced accordingly to the change in my monthly benefit increasing from 19 hours to 26 hours monthly? And David, I believe you're going to help us out with that.
So the way you were claiming the 19 hours, those were regular wages. So depending on how you certified, those hours would benefit amount in California. But when you go into a 12-month VIOP on the 38-hour severance pay, the severance pay in California is not measured against the weekly benefit amount. So even if you report it, you need to notate in your biweekly certification that it is severance pay and it will not reduce the weekly benefits.
Which is good news for that flight attendant, right? And
Good news.
I think she meant 38 hours, not the 26 hours.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're. Okay, it's all right, just a little audio issue here. Okay, we just have time for a couple more questions. Some of these are repeats, so we'll just go over them again, just in case they didn't hear it the first time. This is from a flight attendant in Chicago who took the VIA. Illinois. She's based in Chicago and took the no lump sum VIA. Since I won't be getting vacation or sick payout till November of 2021, do I need to report that when I'm filing for unemployment benefits? Kelly, I think you're going to help us out with that.
Yes, I am. Okay, so when you do your, and David, I may need a little bit of help on this. So when you're filing your initial claim, which is the very first time you're going to the state to say, hey, I'm filing for unemployment, it is going to ask you a series of questions. You need to read those questions very deeply, because the wording is such where you anticipate to receive, will you receive, are you going to receive? Those are statements that are in the future. When they ask questions such as that, you will need to provide the correct information. When you're filling out your certification, it will say, have you received? Because whenever you're doing that certification, you're looking back in time. What did I do last week? What did I do the last 2 weeks? So in that way of thinking, when you receive those payouts later on, much late, months from now, in the event that you are still receiving unemployment, then it would ask you, did you receive anything during this time? It will actually give you date ranges. At that point, you would need to disclose any of the monies that you received and how you received them. And what I mean by how you receive them, were they severance? Were they vacation payouts? Those things are very important, especially for your state, because a lot of that does not measure against your unemployment. So we want to make sure that you get the most that you're entitled to. Did I miss anything on that, David?
No, I was actually going to try to find it. It asked you in Illinois on the biweekly certification, not the initial, but it says, other than Social Security disability, are you receiving or have you applied for a retirement or disability pension? So this is during the biweekly certification. So this is where you're going to confuse the state, because if you answer, are you receiving or have you applied for a retirement or disability pension? Well, the option is yes or no. And it doesn't allow you to say that pension is not from the base period employer.
And what was that phrase again? Base period employer.
Certify, certify, certify.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last question there is the same, it's basically the same. The flight attendant wants you to say yes or no. Now, I'm still unsure, do we say yes or no to receiving our pension for Illinois unemployment? And this is for obviously Chicago, yeah.
You have to disclose to the state that you're receiving a pension. They're asking you that question. So you have to answer it in the affirmative if you are, or no if you're not. What we're trying to do is help you on the back end, because the state's not asking you the full question. So while yes, you need to disclose that you are receiving, will be receiving a pension, you need to follow up with the state to tell them that pension that I disclosed to you is not from my base period employer. So that way they can fix it on their software system so that you get your full eligible benefit as well as your pension.
Thanks, Kelly.
Very good. Thank you, and that was our last question for today. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I especially want to thank Kelly and David for answering so many of these state-specific questions so well, and for doing all the research, because we know this is a full-time job class, to say the least. So hopefully we were able to answer your questions today. If you do have any other questions, please use the resources on the APFA website under member resources. And don't forget, you could always email Kelly and David at unemployment@apfa.org for your answers and for help. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, California.
Bye,
Missouri,
California, Chicago,
Chicago.
Missouri.